Hello and welcome to the Learning Love podcast. I'm Dr. Mark A. Hicks, author of the book Learning Love. It is possible to build the healthy, happy, thriving relationships you have always wanted. So let's spend some time learning love. Love is the answer. Now all we have to do is explore all the questions. And today's question is, how does power affect relationships? What is the impact of power dynamics when it comes to relationships? It actually has a huge effect. And I'm going to make a statement here that in some regards may be controversial, especially at first, until we define our terms. At first, this statement might be a little shocking. I've had people push back on me, but when I define the terms and I explain it, people usually agree with what I'm saying here because it's a very important thing to learn about relationships. So here's the statement. You can have love or you can have power, but you cannot have both. If you choose to assert your power, dominance, to oppress other people in your household, at work, in your neighborhoods and friendships, whatever area we're talking about, whatever relationships we're talking about, if you choose to assert power in the sense of dominance, oppression, selfishness, making sure you have your way at the expense of others, if you are asserting your power, you do not love that person. You are not acting in love. You might have feelings of love. I won't dismiss that. You may genuinely have feelings of love and affection for your family. But if you are the domineering person in that family that oppresses everyone else, that makes sure they know you're always the big dog, and if somebody messes with you, you'll take them out. If that's the kind of life you're living at home and you have to be the top dog all the time and you oppress other people's opinions for your own selfish purposes, that is not a relationship of love. That is a relationship of power. Now, people push back on that a little bit because there are some nuances in this. First of all, people say, well, what about the power of love? Love itself is powerful. Well, I'm going to parse that just a little bit. Love is empowering. Yes, there is a power of love, but the power is given away. The power is given to someone else that you love. When we love someone, it's an empowering love. We build them up. We nurture them. We encourage them. That's what love does. And so, yes, there is a power of love, but that type of power that comes in that phrasing is an empowerment. It builds people up. It is not a power in the sense of oppression or dominance. When we have love for someone, of course we want to empower them. We want to nurture them. We want them to soar. We want to help them in every way we can. And when we love them in that way, it is an empowering love. That power of love, in that sense, absolutely true. But when we have power in the sense of dominance, oppression, getting our way at the expense of others, making sure we are the top dog and everyone knows it, that is not a relationship of love. That begins to tear people down. That begins to undermine people. That is a relationship where people struggle to thrive. In fact, that's one of the major definitions of a dysfunctional family. If you are living in a family where there is one matriarch or patriarch or one dominant figure that everyone's basically afraid of, and then everyone else is jockeying for position, everyone else is trying to find their spot of getting in good with that person, or maybe they're always battling with that person, trying to become the top dog, and people are sort of jockeying for their place of power in the hierarchy of the family below that matriarch or patriarch in the family, below that person of dominance. That is really the definition, or at least a definition, of a dysfunctional family. People are not being nurtured. People are not being built up. People are being oppressed, pushed down into a rank and file order within the family, and everyone's sort of jockeying for position of power. You can have power or you can have love. You cannot have both. When you have love, it is empowering, it builds people up. Now, people also push back on that, saying, wait a minute, you have to have power like over your children. Again, I'm going to parse the words here. I'm going to say that that is authority. Authority is genuine. Authority is a good thing. We need authority. We need people to have authority in life, but there's a key to this. Authority is granted. Now, obviously, small children don't grant that authority to their parents, but it is granted. It's granted by nature, by society, by God. You can take any line of thought you want to. Parents are given authority to raise and teach and guide their children. That's necessary. Children can't go on their own. They need to be protected. They need to be guided. They need to be taught. They need to be raised to be good people. And that's the job of a parent. And the parent has the authority to do that. But that authority is granted and it is temporary. If you're trying to assert the same level of authority over your children when they are 26 as you did when they were 6, again, you're talking about a dysfunctional family. You're talking about a dysfunctional relationship because you're asserting power that you do not have. You do not have authority over a 26-year-old. Now, if you have a good relationship, you may still have influence. That 26-year-old may be coming back and asking advice from their parents. And hopefully that's the case. That's a good thing. But you have the opportunity to guide and teach when it is welcome, but you do not have authority any longer. If you assert authority, force your authority onto your adult children, that's taking power. That is asserting power over them, dominance over them that you are not granted, and that's not love. That is not a loving relationship. That is power. Again, you can have power or you can have love. You cannot have both. One of the things that we struggle with in our society is power struggles in friendships, in churches, in towns, in neighborhoods, in families, in society. We are consumed with power struggles. Who's going to be dominant? Who's going to get their way? Let's put this on a different level. I've been talking a lot about family so far, but let's put this on a different level. Let's imagine that there's a politician, and this politician stands up to give a speech. And the politician says, I want to go to Washington to work together to find practical solutions to the problems we face. And I don't have to be right all the time. I don't have to have my way all the time. I want to find practical solutions that work no matter where the ideas come from, no matter which party comes up with them. And I want to work with anyone of either party that will help find practical solutions for the problems we face. That politician is probably getting laughed off the stage. Because what works in our society is for a politician, and it doesn't matter what party, this is not a political statement, this is not a political show, it's a show about love. But either party, doesn't matter what affiliation, what you will hear them say is, I'm going to go to Washington to fight for you. I'm going to go to Washington to fight to make sure that other party doesn't get their way. I'm going to go to Washington to make sure we win. Power struggles consume our society from a political level to a societal level, all the way down to our homes of who's going to be in charge, who's going to get their way, who's going to be dominant. We are consumed with power struggles, and we pick fights to show we're the dominant ones. We find opportunities to pick fights, sometimes silly ones, sometimes ones that just don't matter, but we're going to make sure that when we have an opportunity, we'll assert our dominance, we'll pick that fight, and make sure that everyone knows we win. We're the dominant one. We're in charge around here. That consumes our families, our society, our politics. We are consumed with power struggles. And one of the reasons we struggle to have love and to have real connections and healthy, happy, thriving relationships is we get too caught up in the power struggles. One of the things that I've done in my life very often is marriage counseling. And one of the big problems of marriage counseling is that it's the only area of counseling I have done where people will lie through their teeth. In most areas of counseling, say grief counseling or some other type of therapy where somebody's coming for help, they usually come with a genuine desire for things to get better. And they just want some help and they want to work through the problems they're facing. And so usually they'll be very honest with the counselor. I mean, after all, it's confidential. And so they will usually come forthrightly and give the whole truth. And even if it makes them look bad, hey, I'm just trying to get some help here. And I know the counselor isn't going to tell anyone. So people are usually very honest in counseling. Marriage counseling is the one area I've found where that's not always the case, because they're afraid of losing. If they're honest, they're afraid of losing the battle. They want to come out of that counseling session trying to win the day, trying to make the marriage what they want, trying to win the battles, trying to make sure that everyone knows they're right. A lot of people spend time in marriage counseling trying to convince the counselor that they're right, their spouse is wrong, rather than looking for actual, real answers. These power struggles don't do us any good. They're not helpful, because you can have power or you can have love, but you can't have both. If you're just looking to win, you're not living a relationship. Even if you do win, you're the big dog, you're the dominant one in the family, everyone's jockeying for position to get your approval. That's not a relationship of love. You haven't really won anything. Even if your group is dominant, even if your group wins, you haven't really won anything, because we aren't connected as a society. When we have a relationship of love, it is one that cares about the other person, even when we disagree with them. If we love people, we can disagree with them and still care for them. We can disagree with them and still not want to oppress them or dominate them or hurt them. When we love, we're not looking for power. We are looking to empower others. We are looking to build people up, not tear them down for our sake. When we get caught up in power struggles, it feels like that we have to win or all is lost. If I don't win, we're going to have a kind of family I don't want to have. If I don't win, then I'm going to get dominated. I'm going to be beat up in this family. I'm going to be the one that's going to be put into this submissive role. And I don't want that, so I better win. When we live life that way, whether it's in friendships, whether it's in neighborhoods, in churches, in families, in society, we are missing the point of love. We are missing out on healthy relationships. We might win the fight, we might be dominant, we might have power, but we don't have love. If we want relationships of love, we have to learn to empower other people. And yes, there are times that we have authority. If we're the boss of a company, if we're the manager, yes, we have authority, but that authority is granted. And we don't abuse that authority by hurting people just to show how tough we are. When we have authority, it is granted and it is temporary. It only has certain limits in order to get things done, in order to work together well. Sometimes people need to be an authority. Very often, we need authority figures to get things done. That's perfectly fine. That's part of working together. That's not part of building healthy, thriving, loving relationships if we're going to assert power instead of love. We need more love. We need love within families, love within churches, neighborhoods, in towns, in society. We need relationships of love, healthy, happy, thriving relationships. And that's what I write about in my book, Learning Love. It's going to be available everywhere books are sold in June of 2025. It's available now for pre-order on my website, markahicks.com. I teach the 5 components of love. You don't have to be caught up in these power struggles. You can actually build healthy, happy, thriving relationships by learning and practicing the 5 components of love. So I hope you'll pre-order your copy of Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters, and Healthy Relationships That Last. Love well, everyone.